All right, starting off now at 5:01, the trial has begun for a former Albuquerque police officer accused of aggravated assault and battery while on duty as a cop. Watch this.
I surrender. You surrender.
Quite disturbing lapel video, first requested by us here at News 13. It shows former officer Connor Rice and two other police officers busting into the apartment of a suspected drug dealers back in 2012 without a warrant. Rice then, you can see it on the video, repeatedly tased a man who had already been tased by another cop. And then the tased man testified in court yesterday.
If you can estimate about how many times were you tased?
3 or 4 times.
Then about an hour after the first incident, the officers found another suspect lying face down in the backyard. One officer, you can see it here, stepped on his face. Rice, right there, hit him 3 times on the head. Then the officers are seen high-fiving each other. Albuquerque police later fired Officer Rice. The 2 other officers were never charged. Well, it was an unusual arrest for Albuquerque police, welcoming the party for a known felon. Tommy Kugler is one of the pillowcase bandits, part of a gang that ransacked homes a couple years ago, filling people's own pillowcases with their stuff and stealing it. He pled guilty to 10 burglary charges as part of that ring. He was supposed to be sentenced this week. Then police say he fled to California after there was a warrant for his arrest in another recent burglary. When they heard that Kugler was coming back, they didn't want to take any chances.
We understand that Mr. Kugler has a substance abuse issue and he is driven by that issue. So we know that once he was back here in Albuquerque, he would go back to doing the things that he needed to do to supply those drugs for himself, and again victimizing the citizens of Albuquerque.
Kugler is now in jail for those recent burglary charges. For $6,500, he could bond his way out. Well, a guy Albuquerque police were chasing for possibly stealing stuff from a store ended up having to be rescued by the same police. Officers say Fernando Garcia stole something from the Kmart on Carlisle and I-40 about 10 o'clock Sunday. As he ran away, he slipped into the flooded arroyo in the middle of the freeway.
He was able to grab onto some debris and hang on for a bit. So one of the officers was able to run into a nearby hotel swimming pool and actually grab their flotation device and race back and get it down to the man.
But once Garcia was halfway up, he threatened to jump back in and kill himself to avoid going to jail. The officers were able to talk him out of that. They pulled him to safety and took him to the hospital. When he gets out, we are told he will be charged with shoplifting. Well, this man has been arrested for accused of holding a gun to his baby's head yesterday. He could be in court today. A witness saw Florencio Armijo with his 1-year-old son in his arms and a gun drawn in the front yard of a home here near 90th and Bridge yesterday morning. Police set up a perimeter and Armijo eventually surrendered. He's now charged with aggravated assault and child abuse. CYFD is investigating. 5:04 now, the Catron County Sheriff's Department tells us at News 13 the body found near Mogollon this weekend is that of a missing elderly man. Howard Bassett, 83 years old, was found dead in a sandbar not far from where his truck was found last week. We're told his injuries were consistent with being swept away by floodwaters. He left Mogollon last week after a flash flood warning was issued. He was supposed to go to Arizona, but he never showed up. Well, 25 of New Mexico's 33 counties have reported damage from this month's torrential rains and flooding. The dollar total is expected to be in the millions. FEMA workers are now touring the state to see if it's bad enough to qualify for federal help.
Based on what I've seen, it's a good bet that FEMA will come and help us out. But at the end of the day, it comes down to the numbers that they get and the assessments they make out in the field.
Many of the counties still have to make their own disaster declarations, which is part of the process to qualify for federal aid. Well, tens of thousands of folks in here in New Mexico could be in dire straits soon because their food stamps could face some extremely steep cuts. Congress is thinking about cutting $4 billion from the program. So we sent News 13 Samantha McDonald to find out how that could affect people and charities here. She is live at the Roadrunner Food Bank in Northeast Albuquerque. What'd you find out, Sam?
Well, Matt, the Roadrunner Food Bank right behind me provides food to about 40,000 people statewide. That number is only expected to grow with more cuts. The bill is headed to the Senate now. If it passes, the bank will receive less food to give out to the hundreds of pantries throughout the state. The pantries generally provide a household with a week's worth of meals, but with not as much food, families will have to endure 2 to 3 days without receiving any food. I went to one of these food pantries yesterday. There was a constant flow of people coming in to get their boxes full of food like crackers, pasta, trail mix. The director there told me a lot of people who come in have been affected by the poor economy. They are unemployed and many others are elderly or disabled. Even in just this past year, there has been a 50% increase in customers, they told me, without the budget cuts. So if our country decides to make those cuts, the food pantries will be looking for help.
Everybody in the food chain in this city is going to need to step up and help us to try to fill the empty bellies that we're trying to fill.
The staff here tell me that New Mexico is ranked #1 for childhood hunger in the country, and we are ranked second worst for overall food insecurity. Matt, back to you.
Certainly not some good statistics. Thank you, Sam. Once again, the U.S. House passed this bill, even though Democrats, even some Republicans voted against it. The Senate is threatening to kill it. We will keep you updated.